Ever feel like you're doing all the right things, eating your veggies, trying to exercise, all that, but your body's still sending out like those stress signals?
Mhm.
It's like, dude, I thought we were on the same side here, body.
Yeah.
Well, get ready, because in this deep dive, we are going to crack open that book you sent us, The Hidden Toll of Modern Life, to expose all those sneaky ways everyday life kind of messes with our health, even when we think we're doing okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me how often we just kind of overlook those subtle, those cumulative impacts of, just modern living. Like we power through thinking we're fine, but then all those little stresses, they snowball into something, well, bigger.
Right. Like the book, it really kind of hammered home this whole idea of chronic stress for me. And not just like, the occasional deadline panic, but that constant low-level hum of tension that I think a lot of us are dealing with these days.
Yeah, totally. And they approach it in this really clever way,
Yeah.
by contrasting our lives now with those of like our hunter-gatherer ancestors, which, it's not about romanticizing the past or anything. It's more about understanding how our biology, which was shaped over millennia, it kind of clashes with our 21st century routines.
Okay, so it's caveman Kelly versus modern Manny. I am intrigued. Paint the picture for me. What's the core difference here?
All right, so picture this. Caveman Kelly, right? He's up with the sun. His body's naturally releasing cortisol. That's our get-up-and-go hormone. It's fueling him for, like, hunting, gathering, all that. His stressors are immediate and physical, chasing prey, seeking shelter. But, crucially, those stressors are always followed by these periods of rest and recovery.
So it's like interval training, but for his stress response system. Intense bursts, then some downtime to recharge. Makes sense.
Exactly. His body, it evolved for that rhythm. Now, fast forward to modern Manny, right? Wakes up to a blaring alarm, immediately flooded with emails, news alerts, cortisol spikes, but it doesn't get that natural, that ebb and flow throughout the day. You know what I mean?
And let's be real, Manny's probably reaching for that sugary coffee to power through the mental overload, which, speaking of the book, talks a lot about how, modern diets contribute to this constant state of stress.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Our ancestors, they rarely had access to excess food, let alone the processed sugary stuff, right?
Yeah.
And now we're bombarded with it. Our bodies, they just haven't adapted.
Yeah.
And that leads to what the book calls the first of the Four Horsemen of Metabolic Apocalypse. Dun, dun, dun. Blood sugar chaos.
Four Horsemen. Okay, that sounds dramatic, but I get it. It's just about having a sweet tooth, right? It's deeper than that.
Way deeper.
Yeah.
Each horseman, it represents a key way that modern life, it throws our systems out of whack. With blood sugar, it's those constant spikes and crashes. Like, imagine a roller coaster, but that's your insulin level all day long, trying to manage all that sugar intake.
And I'm guessing that takes a toll over time. Constantly riding a roller coaster's got to make you busy, right?
Exactly. That's where insulin resistance comes in. Our cells, they're constantly bombarded with insulin. They become less responsive to it. It's like, think of insulin as the key that unlocks the door for glucose to get into your cells and give you energy, right?
Yeah.
When you have insulin resistance, it's like the key doesn't work as well, so glucose builds up in your bloodstream.
Okay, yeah. Starting to see why that's a problem. And this sets the stage for a whole bunch of other health issues, right?
Oh, yeah. We're talking increased risk of weight gain, fatigue, brain fog, even serious conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all that down the line.
Whoa, okay. So, blood sugar dysregulation, that's horseman number 1. What's next on this metabolic hit list?
Well, remember how Manny's day started? That whole cortisol surge just from waking up. That brings us to our second horseman, chronic mental and emotional stress.
Okay, that one's a little less surprising, right? I mean, deadlines, relationships, that never-ending to-do list modern life is full of things that keep us in, like low-grade fight-or-flight mode all the time.
Right, and it's that chronicity that's the problem. Short-term stress, like, caveman Kelly facing a predator, that's natural. But when it's relentless, like Manny's inbox overload, that keeps cortisol elevated for way too long.
Got it. So it's like our bodies are primed for action, but there's no real outlet, so we're just stewing in this chemical soup of stress hormones.
Exactly. And those hormones, over time, they wreak havoc, man. Disrupt sleep, suppress your immune system, even impact how our bodies store fat. It's like this slow leak in your energy reserves.
Man, this is heavy stuff. We've got 2 horsemen down, 2 to go. What's next on the list of things secretly stressing us out?
It's like, we often think about inflammation as that thing that happens after an injury, right? Like you sprain your ankle or something. But the third horseman, this chronic inflammation thing, it's often, well, in a way, it's way more insidious, It's like this low-grade simmer throughout your body. And it's fueled by things like, the processed foods, lack of sleep, and yeah, you guessed it, chronic stress.
Wait, so all that stuff we were just talking about with blood sugar and cortisol being out of whack, that can actually contribute to inflammation too. So it's like a domino effect in our bodies.
Bingo. Think of it this way. Those first two horsemen, they're like setting the stage, creating this environment where inflammation can just like take root and thrive.
And this isn't just about feeling a little stiff after a workout, right? This kind of chronic inflammation, it can have some pretty serious consequences over time.
Oh, yeah. Big time. It's linked to a whole bunch of chronic diseases, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even certain types of cancer.
Right.
It's like having the emergency brake slightly on all the time, but in your body. It just wears your systems down over time.
Okay, yeah, definitely do not want that brake on. All right, that's 3 horsemen down, 1 to go. What's the final horseman that's like secretly sabotaging our health?
It might seem obvious, but we cannot underestimate the impact of this one. It's sleep disturbances. We live in a culture that often glorifies busyness and sleep deprivation, but our bodies,
Yeah.
yeah, they weren't designed for that at all.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm definitely guilty of burning the midnight oil sometimes. But I'm starting to realize it's not just about feeling a little groggy the next day. There's got to be more to it than that, right?
Oh, way more. Sleep, especially deep sleep, that's prime time for our bodies to do their most important repair work. Think of it like your nightly system reboot, cells regenerate, muscles rebuild, and your brain, it finally gets to clear out all those toxins.
Okay, so I'm hearing that skimping on sleep, it's like hitting the snooze button on our body's natural healing process, and not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And to make matters worse, poor sleep, it makes those other horsemen even worse, messes with our hunger hormones, so we crave more sugary foods, increases cortisol levels, fuels inflammation. It's a vicious cycle.
And they're all kind of working together to undermine our health, often in ways that we don't even realize, right?
Yeah, and that's where the book introduces this whole concept of allostatic load, which is essentially the cumulative wear and tear on your body from, constantly battling these stressors.
All right, allostatic load, it sounds kind of intimidating. Can you break that down a little bit? What exactly does that mean for like our bodies and our health?
Okay, so imagine this. Your body has this reserve of resilience, right? Like a savings account. You can draw from it when you're facing challenges, tough times, all that. Each time you encounter one of those horsemen, you have a super stressful day at work, a night of terrible sleep. It's like you're making a withdrawal from that account.
Okay, I like that analogy. So we're constantly making deposits and withdrawals depending on how we're living our lives, the choices we're making.
Exactly. And here's the thing. When those withdrawals are constant, like you're withdrawing way more than you're depositing, that reserve, that capacity to bounce back, it starts to dwindle. It's not good.
And what happens when we hit like a negative balance in our resilience savings account? What happens then?
That's when you start to feel it. That's when we become more susceptible to everything, like from those everyday complaints. You're tired, you can't focus, your mood's all over the place, to more serious health issues like heart disease, autoimmune conditions, and yeah, even accelerated aging.
Wow, okay, accelerated aging, that is a scary thought. But if we're constantly depleting our reserves like that, how do we reverse that trend? Is it even possible? Like, can we actually replenish that allostatic load once it's been depleted? Is there any hope? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like, once it's depleted, is that it? Is there any hope?
Well, the good news is your allostatic load, it's not a life sentence, thankfully. It's dynamic.
Okay, so what does that mean? Dynamic.
Dynamic means we have the power to influence it through our choices.
Okay, I like the sound of that. So less doom scrolling, more doing something about it. So where do we even begin?
Well, remember how we were talking about our ancestors, right? That whole natural rhythm of stress and recovery. Big clue there. One of the most powerful tools we have. It's actually crazy simple.
Don't tell me. Nap time.
Close. It's breathing.
Breathing, like in and out. I do that all day long.
You do. But we're talking about specific breathing techniques, and the book really gets into this. Like, coherence breathing can actually, I'm not kidding, shift your body out of that fight or flight mode.
No way. So I'm like hacking my nervous system with just breathing? Okay, all right, I'm listening. Tell me more about this coherence breathing thing.
Okay, so it's surprisingly simple. You're inhaling for a count of like 5 or 6, holding it for a second, then exhaling for that same count. The book goes into more detail, of course, but the main thing is that rhythmic, controlled breathing. It's like a mini meditation you can do anywhere, anytime.
Okay, gotta love a good life hack. So, breathing exercises, check. What else can we do to like make those deposits into our resilience bank account?
Sleep. Remember how we were talking about how crucial sleep is for like repair and recovery?
Yeah, yeah.
The book, it emphasizes how important not just the quantity of sleep is, but the quality.
Yeah.
Like creating a relaxing bedtime routine. Putting those screens away before bed, all those things we should do. But
Ugh, yeah, guilty. I am the queen of scrolling through my phone in bed. But seriously, creating those healthy sleep habits, it's huge.
it is huge. And it all ties back to managing that allostatic load we talked about. When you prioritize sleep, you're giving your body the downtime it needs to do its work. The repairs, balancing hormones, all of it, all that stuff that contributes to, building resilience.
Right, it's like hitting the reset button each night. So breathing, sleep. Well, what about diet? We talked about those blood sugar spikes being a major stressor. What's the antidote there?
So it's about moving away from the processed foods, the sugary drinks, all that stuff that sends your blood sugar on that roller coaster ride, remember. Focusing on whole, unprocessed foods is key.
So ditch the donuts and eat real food. Got it. But it doesn't have to be all like kale smoothies and tofu.
No, not at all. The book actually has some really good practical tips for like making changes to your diet that you can stick with delicious recipes, meal planning strategies. So it feels less like a chore and more like you're actually just shifting your lifestyle.
And it's all connected, right? Like it's not about these separate things, breathing, sleep, diet, they all work together to like create a more resilient you.
Exactly. Our bodies are complex systems, but everything is connected. You can't just focus on one thing and ignore everything else. It's all about balance. Finding that sweet spot where your systems are, working together in harmony.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden toll of modern life, I'm curious what's resonating with you the most? What's like one small change you think you can make today to start reclaiming your health and building that resilience?
Remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Even the smallest shifts can make a big difference over time.
Great advice. Thanks for diving deep with us. Until next time, be well and take care of yourselves.